Now, how was it for you? How was it in terms of music and now to be back out there?
The pandemic was, for us, surprisingly a blessing in disguise. Now, I know it was an awful time for the world, but it was a forced break for us that we haven't been able to have in 25 years. So for the 18 months we've been off, we've got to spend, well, Keith spent loads of time with his kids and with his wife, and for me, I got to have a new baby. And I've got 2 kids already, but when they were born and they were young, I missed all the pregnancy, I missed all of their first few months because I was in Westlife and I was on the road. So this time I got to be there for the whole pregnancy, see her be born and be with her every second for the first 4 months of her life, which, that's a blessing for me.
What about yourself, Keith?
Yeah, like Brian said, we would never take this type of time off work. We love what we do, and you get into a rut sometimes that you love what you do, so you continue doing it, but you don't look at what's suffering along the way. And things might not necessarily be suffering, but you have to make time for all the things that are important, and maybe sometimes you don't use your time management very well. So with that said, I got to spend time, my kids are growing up, they're 21 and 25. So, and when I only get home to Ireland maybe 2 or 3 days every 2 weeks when we're working. So we're like passing ships in the night. I might get to see them for a day or a dinner or a meal, but that probably would be it. But for the last year and a half, we've had breakfast, lunch and dinner together every day. And that's just quality time that you can never get back. Like Brian said earlier, like, I mean, every cloud has a silver lining, and the silver lining for us was giving us the opportunity to be able to spend undivided quality time with the people that we love, and re-secure the foundations of family and enable us now to be able to go off confidently on tour next week, and our tour goes on till Christmas. So it just kind of enables us now to have that foundation, the love and the reassurance, to be able to go and do what we do now.
Surprisingly, it was quite easy. I think we both feared when we came back, because it had been such a long gap of us being on stage, that it was going to take a while to get back into. But we did our first big show in Derry, in Northern Ireland, what was it, like a month ago now? And it was literally just like riding a bike. As soon as we got back on that stage, all of those feelings came back, and the excitement and the enjoyment, and we kind of got into it very, very quickly. When you're talking about, the 18 months we've had off and how is it going to be going back, the way we're doing it now is a little bit different. We're not going to do it where we just work 6-7 days a week. We're going to do maybe 3 gigs a week and then have 3 days off. So we're going to really focus over the next few years of balancing our time with work and with spending time with our family, because we're not getting any younger.
Tell us about Boyzlife. How did it come about?
Well, Boyzlife was an idea from, I think it was Christmas 2015, and basically it came about, I was thinking about doing like an autobiographical show on my own. I had just done 6 months in the West End in London, an Irish writer's play called A Handful of Stars, a Billy Roach play, and I was in Trafalgar Studios for 6 months doing that. And the only thing I hadn't really done, I mean, as the music business goes, you're playing yourself on stage, I mean, you might have a persona, but you're playing yourself on stage. When you're an actor, you're playing a character, and you have to try to make other people believe that you are that character, that you're not Keith Duffy, that you are Stapler or whatever, Kieran McCarthy or whatever character I've played. And I kind of thought that's a much scarier part of the entertainment business than what we do. What we do, we love to do, and it's ourselves, like I said. But when you're going out and you're only in a small theatre to maybe 100 people, 120 people, and you walk out and the lights are on you and you can see the whites of everybody's eyes, and you've got a 12-page monologue to deliver to the audience, it's so terrifying. It's absolutely horrendously scary. But there's something in that I love. It's like a drug that keeps bringing me back, and I love just scaring the Bavarians out of myself, So I thought the only harder gig to do would be a one-man show. Go out and do it on your own for an hour and see if you could make that happen. And I'm not a script writer, so I didn't know how to begin writing a script, and the idea came up to do an autobiographical show. So I write about true stories that had happened, past experiences, 20 years in the music business, telling the story from my perspective, explaining how it felt for me to be coming from where I came from, then to be on stage beside Pavarotti, to be on stage beside B.B. King or U2 or the Bee Gees or whoever it is that I've sang with. And I thought that'd be very, very interesting. And I'd gone quite down the road with that. Brian and I had met playing golf, and Brian was doing a live concert in Whelan's in Dublin, which is a really credible kind of a rock venue. I went to the gig. Brian blew the roof off the place. It was a great night. And we ended up having a couple of pints of Guinness after the show, as we do. He asked me what I was up to at the moment, and I explained to him what I just told you about this show. And he goes, "Oh, that sounds great. I'd love to do something like that." And I thought, well, I'd much rather have somebody on the road with me than do it on my own. So why don't we kind of redo it as both of us, from our both perspectives. You know, from Westlife, from Boyzone, we'll come together and we'll do it together. We'll have much more fun. So that's how the idea was born. We put the tickets on sale about 3 months later. We sold out in 4 hours. We put the second tour on sale 2 nights into the first tour, and we sold that gig out as well. And it's kind of organically grown from an autobiographical show to an actual band, where we're recording new music now. We brought out an album last year during the lockdown. We brought out an album that we recorded with the Royal Philharmonic, an 84-piece orchestra, and we did all the #1 songs from Westlife and Boyzone with the orchestra, and that album went to #1 in the iTunes chart in the UK and in Ireland. So that was a great success. I think it could have been possibly even bigger if we weren't in lockdown in the pandemic. At the moment now, we're writing and recording our first studio album, which is very exciting. We've just finished the first song, which we hope to be the first single, which should be out at the end of September. So it's a whole new entity for us. It's a whole new beginning. The show that we're going to be doing here in Belfast Town Hall.
Birmingham even.
Sorry, Birmingham. So good evening, Birmingham.
Hello, Birmingham.
Yeah, so I'll state it again. So the show that we're going to be doing here in Birmingham Town Hall on the 10th of September is all the hits from Westlife and Boyzone, with a full live band behind us. We've got the live drums, guitars, keys, and Brian and I are, you know, we're not shy. So it ends up being a pretty wild show.
No, this isn't like McFly and Busted. That was 2 bands coming together. This was never supposed to be, you know, a coming together of Boyzone and Westlife. This was originally supposed to be Keith Duffy and Brian McFadden, 2 guys that were in bands, as Keith said, doing a show, talking about our life, telling stories about, you know, being on the road and behind the scenes, and it organically turned into us just doing a live show of the greatest hits of Boyzone and Westlife, and now recording and writing our own music. So it was never supposed to be the 2 groups together. It just happens that we were in those 2 groups. So in short, no, we don't plan on bringing anybody else into the band. Festival. We're doing a festival in Wolverhampton. That's the one thing, you know, we're leading up to this tour starting back in September. We've been doing a lot of shows, festival shows, all across Europe. We've been in Denmark and Sweden every weekend, and we've done shows up and down the country here. And for us, they're great as well. Because, you know, obviously when we do a show on the tour, it's a full show, and we're on stage for 2 hours. But for the festivals, you know, you'll have 20,000 people, and we just get to do maybe 8, 9, 10 of our hits. So for us, it's nice because we get in, quick buzz, get on stage, and go off. So festival season for us is always a lot of fun.
But we're very excited about the whole tour in general, to be honest. Birmingham, when we first started off doing that autobiographical show that I was talking to you about, Birmingham was one of our biggest audiences. Birmingham was one of our biggest support areas. So we get on quite well with our fans up here. We know a lot of them because we've been in the business over 20 years, and it's the same faces that keep coming back. So in fact, there's a fan here that we know as Juicy Lucy, and it's actually her birthday today. And she was one of our first big Birmingham fans back in '94. So happy birthday, Juicy Lucy. But yeah, look, this venue is spectacular, you know, and we just found out today that we're going to be the first group to sing on this stage since lockdown over 18 months ago. So there's a bit of an honour in that, you know. So
we've got a great connection with Birmingham though in general. You know, we're massive golfers. We love our golf. So the Belfry's like our second home. So like when we're on tour, if we're playing anywhere in the country that's within an hour and a half of Birmingham, we just stay at the Belfry. So we could be in the Belfry for 3 weeks while we're on tour.
You can't say that.
Why?
Because now everybody's going to know where we're staying.
But they won't know.
You know the way you like to get drunk, and they're going to see you and take photographs of you.
Oh, well, they won't. Leave us alone. Don't. We'll be fine. That's where we go and play golf. But no, we do. We've got a great relationship with Birmingham, and even going back to the days of Boyzone at the beginning. And I remember Westlife supporting Boyzone on the very first tour we were ever on. And you know, you'd come to the NEC, and it was just such a brilliant place to play. You know, every place is different, but there was always a massive buzz in the NEC. And to me, it was always one of my favourite places to play.
Yeah. I mean, we started off back in the early 90s, and when we got into arenas, there wasn't many national exhibition centres like you have in Birmingham. So you'd be playing old halls and stuff, you know, the biggest they could find. But you came to Birmingham, it was the proper bells and whistles, because you have the facilities here to be able to accommodate big bands. And the NEC has got great places in our memories.
What else have you got planned for the future?
We don't have an awful lot of time left.
That's taking up all our time. You know, look, obviously Keith's into his acting, and I'm sure you're probably going to look at that down the line. But right now, the next 3 years, there's no time for us to do anything except for what we're doing right now.
We got to catch up on everything we lost.